At the India Today Conclave, it's time now for what should be one of the most insightful and also one of the most important sessions of this entire conclave. So I want to introduce you to our two guests joining us to talk about the trends in AI that you're likely to see through 2025. And I'm not going beyond that because of just the sheer speed at which things keep changing. So trying to project too far into the future is actually quite hazardous. Allow me to welcome first Nitin Mittal. He is the principal at Deloitte Global, basically heads artificial intelligence practice for Deloitte. And from what I've seen, a lot of the world's biggest companies consult with him very closely on how best to use AI. So we're delighted that he's made the effort of coming down from Paris to be here at this conference. Thank you very much. I have Puneet Chandok. Puneet Chandok heads Microsoft in India as its president for India and South Asia. He also heads up CII's AI Council. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. You know, I want to start by asking Nitin about India's approach to artificial intelligence. We've just seen China over the past few weeks upend a lot of global calculus around AI and large language models by producing DeepSeek, which supposedly was produced at a lower cost and works more efficiently than the large language models produced by Microsoft, OpenAI, and several others. Why has China been able to do this, or one Chinese company been able to do this? And despite the plethora of IT talent that India has, all these big behemoths that make billions of dollars, why did that innovation happen in China and not in India? Let's start from there.
So the way that I would kind of maybe characterize it, as opposed to comparing it between India and China, a lot of the talent in India is on the application side, applying technology. How does it work in a corporate setting? How does it work in society? How does it work for employees? How does it work for customers? That's why we have one of the, I would say, kind of largest and perhaps one of the most progressive IT services industry. But it is very much on the application side. Yes, I will kind of admit that there's a lot more that needs to be done from a product research perspective, product innovation perspective, product orientation perspective. China has certainly kind of focused a lot more with respect to product innovation. And that's kind of perhaps where the differences come in. China focusing a bit more on product innovation, leading to R&D and innovation.
Which is very irksome from my lens, and I'm sure from the lens of a lot of other people as well, because at Davos, for example, we saw all the big Indian companies talk about use cases of AI, and that's where they were concentrating their energy. And here's this small, unheralded Chinese research startup, which essentially goes and relooks the entire model bottom up. That requires audacity, it requires ambition, and we're a lot of very creative, technically sound people. Why didn't that happen? I mean, I'm asking you this. I know you stay in the United States now, but this is where your heart, I suppose, is.
It will happen. It is inevitable. We should not be looking at essentially just one episode, one instance of innovation, one moment in time. This is a continuum. Frankly, I'll say this. The pace of innovation with respect to what is happening in AI is unlike anything else we have ever basically imagined. We are not talking of innovation in years. We are frankly not even talking of innovation in months. We're talking of innovation in weeks and days. So just one event in one moment of time doesn't basically kind of tell the entire story. And there's a lot actually that is yet to come from India. There's a lot that we experience. And I will actually say this, instead of just a big bang event like DeepSeek, we see a lot of basically incremental innovation applied out of India by Indian companies, by Indian talent in the corporate world and in businesses.
So you build on this as well?
Yeah.
Just to build on what Nitin said, I think Satya was in India in Jan, and he said something which is fascinating. He said tokens per dollars per watt. That's the new equation for AI. Tokens is the intelligence of the output we produce out of these models. Dollars is the capex that we put in. Watt is the energy we consume. I think just building on Nitin's point, India is not short of ambition, audacity, and capabilities. I think our opportunity, Rahul, is to get this equation right, which is, can we build these models, improve on these models with lesser dollars and lesser energy consumption? And that's where India innovates, right? And I think that's coming. I don't think it's too far.
So you're saying picture abhi baki hai. Don't think of it as one big bang moment. Let's spend some time talking about what India is doing on sovereign AI. One of the big trends in artificial intelligence is sovereign AI, where the debate is about whether countries should build their own large language models or should they just use the large language models because the LLMs are now commoditized and therefore do you really need to build your own? I'm sure you've all read that Minister Ashwini Vaishnav, our IT minister, is now buying up a lot of compute power, and essentially what we're trying to do is fuel Indian companies into building their own large language models. I'll start again with you, Nitin. Where do you come out on this? The requirement, the sovereign imperative to build your own sovereign LLM models versus thinking of these models as commodities. Everybody virtually has access to the same data sets, and therefore, do you really need to go down that route?
A lot of countries, similar to India, are absolutely going down the path of sovereign AI. And here's kind of one fundamental aspect of it. Today, we manufacture physical goods. Many countries want to have a manufacturing ecosystem, perhaps not at the scale at what China has, but all countries are looking to kind of figure out their own manufacturing ecosystem to produce and manufacture physical goods. What is AI? AI is about manufacturing intelligence. It's not a physical good. It's a digital good. And that digital good is intelligence. What's the manufacturing capacity to actually manufacture that digital good, aka intelligence? That's your sovereign AI infrastructure. If a country like India does not have its own sovereign AI infrastructure, it essentially means it does not have its own means of manufacturing or an ecosystem around it for the digital product of today, which is intelligence.
Do you have a different perspective because you also wear your Microsoft hat? Are you saying, छोड़ दो हम लोग कर लेते हैं, आप हमारा बस use कर लो, हमारा Copilot या ChatGPT use करो and you're fine? Ashwini ji, Vaishnav ji, why are you wasting time trying to build your own LLMs?
I'm absolutely not saying that. I think what India needs to do is, I think, both innovation and diffusion, right? And if you look at the history of countries that have used technology to drive development, it's not just innovation. Obviously, we got to do innovation, but the power of diffusion, right? How fast can we take AI from classrooms to boardrooms in India? Like, literally, right? And as Microsoft, we committed to training 10 million people in India on AI in the next few years. I don't think it's enough. We got to keep doing more. But how fast do we diffuse this, right? From commerce to communities, right? Just from finance to farms. Every part of India, every business, every school, every institution, can we truly become an AI-first nation by diffusing the power of AI, is something that I'm excited about.
No, but let's stay with building our own models, Nitin, because the minister said that we'll have 18,000 GPUs that we're putting together as a collective bank, and then whichever company wants to build, they can take from a national collective rather than trying to buy on their own. They've got their own targets, but looking at it from your expert lens at Deloitte, how soon do you think it'll be before India can effectively produce its own large language model? DeepSeek, ChatGPT, whatever it may be, how soon do we see one made in India, Desi DeepSeek?
Yeah. So I think we have a little bit of over-fascination with large language models. Okay. There's many of them. Sure. What actually tends to be a lot more useful is contextualized small language models. Something that could be used for a particular purpose, a particular task, a particular workflow, a particular innovation, a particular kind of design. That tends to actually fuel a lot more innovation than just having one huge kind of large language model. But there are many companies who already do that very well. Microsoft obviously kind of being one of them, OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google, etc. We can sort of go down that list. But how do you actually apply them for a particular context, in a particular industry, in a particular domain, in a particular business, for a particular task? That's where a lot more innovation is perhaps going to happen in the small language space that are contextualized models for specific purposes to achieve specific outcomes.
But that didn't answer my question. Yes, of course, SLMs are important, and a lot of Indian companies, startups and the big companies are focusing on them, and some of them have been very successful. But let's look at that foundational model and your perspective on the approach that India has taken at this moment, the effort that is being made, and the timeline which would be entailed in trying to see a successful outcome.
Yeah, a little bit difficult to predict the timeline, to be honest. I mean, because there's a lot of things that have to come in place. It's entrepreneurship that meets investment that is made available, meets computing, meets engineering prowess, meets even basically kind of the need for it. A lot of that has to come together. It's very difficult to kind of predict when a country comes up with its own sovereign LLM.
Okay, so let's now move on to the second part of this conversation, and this is to do with agentic AI. And just for context, what we're seeing so far is a lot of search queries being run and responses being thrown up through generative AI. We're also seeing a lot of predictive AI, which is basically to use data to predict what may happen. And Microsoft is working a lot on agentic AI, and we know that that's something that Satya and the entire team at Microsoft is very big on. Do you want to talk us through where we're at this moment and the trends that you think will be available publicly over the next few months, and give everyone a sense of how their lives may be better because of, say, Copilot and the other trends in agentic AI?
I think Nitin said this very well, right? We're entering a world of model diversity with multiple large, small. I've seen teams build tiny language models now. So I think these models are getting smaller and larger at the same time, which is fascinating. If you look at the history of tech, right, last 70 years, it was all about Moore's law, which is every 2 years we double performance. But with these models now and deep neural networks, we're doubling performance every 6 months. So that's what's going on behind the hoods, if you will, on AI. Every 6 months, we're doubling performance. Now, that has 3 implications for all of us, everybody in the crowd today, each one of you. First, more intelligence is coming. And there was this beautiful quote by somebody who said, intelligence is a beautiful property given only to humans. I don't think that's true anymore. Right? We're truly manufacturing intelligence now, and there's more intelligence, information, expertise, judgment coming at your fingertips and through copilots and these AI assistants. Second is more empathy is coming. Right? Technology for the sake of technology doesn't mean anything. And I can imagine a future where these copilots and these AI assistants will have a lot more empathy. They'll have a lot more context in you. Rahul, your agent will be different from my agent. And 3 or 4 or 5 years down the line, when somebody hires you or me or looks at you, our profile, they look at Rahul plus Rahul's agent and Puneet plus Puneet's agent and Nitin's agent, right? So I think there's more empathy coming, more context coming. And then third is more agencies coming, right? Which is where this gets really magical. When these AI assistants start working with your permission but not your involvement. And I think I genuinely believe 2025 is becoming the year of agents. And these are not the James Bond kind of agents. These are autonomous software systems that understand your context, they understand your objectives, and they get stuff done for you. Right? And I did this, my team built a custom agent for me the other day where I was taking a flight from Delhi to Bangalore. Before taking the flight, I put in a prompt in my agent saying, I have 2 CEO meetings. For one, I need a proposal ready with the data center proposition that we have. For the other one, there's some legal clause that needs to be reviewed. Can you please get this done? By the time I landed in Bangalore, 2 hours, 20 minutes, I had a prompt back. I had the document ready, the proposal ready, the presentation ready. But by the way, Copilot gave me advice saying, on the legal side, you need to talk to your legal team and deal desk team before you go and talk to the customer because there are a couple of things that are not clear. Now, this was intelligence. And by the way, it said, best of luck for the 2 meetings. Hope you have a good day and have a safe flight back. So this was intelligence, this was empathy, and this was agency in action. So all 3 are coming. And this is where I think it becomes really, really fascinating. And by the way, it's not just copilots which are giving you this intelligence. We're seeing vertical copilots being built, right? So we're building copilots for doctors. With Apollo Hospitals, fascinating innovation happening. For first-year doctors, can we give them the same information, same expertise, same judgment like a 20th-year doctor? And that's when this becomes really, really magical.
So he's largely spoken of what they're doing at Microsoft, which is fair. That's reasonable. You give us a broader sense of what to expect from agentic AI this year and give some smart tips for people about how they can best use it.
Yeah. So let me kind of draw this picture. You kind of started by innovation from China, DeepSeek, etc. The bigger innovation is exactly kind of where Puneet was going. We have gone from Gen AI telling something to doing something. That's the bigger innovation that's actually kind of happened. In the first phase of Gen AI, you could have used ChatGPT, you could have issued a prompt, aka ask a question, and it would tell you something, give you information, give you insights, satisfy your curiosity, whatever. Now, it's about actually executing a task, executing a workflow, executing an interaction. It is doing something for you. It is not just telling you something or giving you information, which means it's suddenly become a lot more useful because it is actually offloading some of the work that you would have done. It is offloading some of the activity that you would have actually kind of undertaken. And it is truly becoming a co-worker or a e-buddy or essentially undertaking tasks for
So
you.
the big challenge there is of hallucination. And you'll see this tomorrow. When the chiefs are here, some of the data sets that we've created have been created using the deep research feature on ChatGPT. And I saw just in a few minutes, it was able to pull out what would take a serious military researcher several months to do, which is phenomenal. But the fear I had was, what if some element of this is hallucination? What if it gets fact-checked? And what if this is wrong? To what extent? And we've seen a lot of crazy hallucinations. Some of it is being addressed. How much of a concern is it still? And to what extent do you think it's been dealt with?
How accurate are humans? Are we kind of free of hallucination? We essentially are holding AI to a standard of 100% accuracy, as opposed to the relative standard of our essentially ability to be accurate all the time, or perhaps kind of not, and our ability to always be 100% reliable. AI is a system that learns. It learns essentially with every piece of data, every interaction, every experience, and practically learns every day the more that you use it. The more that you use it, the more data that you feed it, it becomes better and better and better, more accurate, and consequently, less hallucinations. So we have to basically give it time and runway for it to essentially surpass what we assume to be the human level of accuracy.
Okay. By the way, we have references now, right? So I was telling this story outside, which is before coming for this panel, I went to my co-pilot. I said, I'm meeting Rahul and Nitin for this panel, Man versus Machine. By the way, the title I don't think is right. I think it should be man and more humans plus machines, man or woman. And I said, listen, what questions should I expect? And then I said, tell me something funny or peculiar about Rahul, and tell me something interesting about Mittal. And it gave me some stories about you, about horse riding and your first interview when you were an intern with the Prime Minister. And it gave me references. So I actually clicked on the reference to make sure, I hope I don't pick up something about you which is not true. So it's getting fact-checked and validated already now if you're using the right tools.
So let's spend some more time, Puneet, on your suggestions to everyone sitting here and watching on what you think are the most practical, immediately doable uses of agentic AI, which you think, hey, here are some really cool things. I don't know if you know, but you better do because this is how it can change your life.
I think the first is productivity, right? And I'll tell you a quick story, right? When I joined the workforce 25 years ago, I had a dream of doing fascinating work. But if you look at our work, right, I mean, whatever job you do today, right, the drudgery of the tasks that you have to do, the grunt work, like the email inbox, right? It's supposed to help you, but it's become a burden now, right? These documents, everything that you work on. So the first liberating fact or the liberating dream that I have out of AI is it's going to take this drudgery out of your work. I was telling Mr. Puri, 2/3 of my emails I don't type anymore. I literally don't type those emails. I get the right draft. Every morning when I get up, my inbox is full of hundreds of emails. I say, listen, tell me the priority ones, tell me the important ones, tell me the urgent ones. Right? So it's taking the drudgery out of my work away. It's bringing joy back. And I'm saving roughly 30 minutes per day on an average. I think I should be saving more as I use more of this. But imagine if every one of you gets 30 minutes back. Literally 30 minutes back every day. So that's a massive productivity uplift. And more than productivity, it takes the drudgery out of the bad stuff and grunt work and brings joy back at work. Second, for your businesses, whatever you're doing, whichever company you work for, right? I think there are two sets of use cases that are emerging, Rahul. One is what I call numerator, second is denominator. Numerator is top line, right? Which is, in terms of your business, what more can you do for your customers? How do you improve customer experience? How do you get more things to them and sell more and deliver more and get them a better experience? And then on the denominator, how do you drive your productivity across your employee workforce? I'll give you, like, as Microsoft, roughly 1/3 of our code in the last year for all our new products have been written by generative AI by GitHub Copilot. In the last 1 year, we've shipped more products than the last 5 combined. Last week, I was with Cognizant, Ravi, and he spoke about 20% of the code that Cognizant is writing today is written by GitHub Copilots. Infosys, 7 million lines of code written by machines now. So I think, so there is enough and more, right? And I think the days of skepticism are gone. I think this hype cycle is gone. There's real pragmatic value out there as an individual, as a business, as an enterprise. And my only suggestion to all of you is don't wait till conventional wisdom catches up. Just go, lean in now, and get started today.
Let me get you to answer the same question. Your most practical tips on this is what you should be doing now, because if you aren't, you're really missing out.
every single use case where you need abundance. And let me actually explain that. When I say every single use case where you need abundance. If you're a pharmaceutical company and you've come out with kind of a new therapy, and as part of that, you're trying to essentially have an outreach program to the patients in terms of the right dosage, adhering to the protocol, taking kind of the medicine in a timely manner, etc. You essentially have a nurse practitioner, as an example, reach out. A nurse practitioner could reach out to a few of the patients. You got basically 10 nurse practitioners, a few hundred. But now, if you've got an agentic-based digital nurse that has essentially been trained in reaching out, you have suddenly basically kind of liberated from that equation of a single nurse practitioner reaching out to 10, 20, or 30 patients to the digital nurse reaching out to thousands. Now you have an abundant workforce. You have an abundant agentic-based digital workforce that can reach out to hundreds of thousands of patients and help those patients in terms of right dosage, adherence to kind of the protocol, taking medicine in a timely manner, and you've suddenly basically improved lives and essentially kind of the clinical experience that patient is having. Every single use case where it lends itself to abundance.
But let's then come to the gorilla in the room, which frankly is jobs. Because if Puneet can get half the work on emails done through an agent, he doesn't need an EA. If all these IT companies can write the code through Copilot, you need fewer coders. And I am 100% convinced that the likes, I don't want to name anyone, but the big consultancies, the big tech companies don't tell us in public the true impact on jobs, that the true impact is far deeper than the likes of Nitin would admit in public. How do you respond to that?
So here's what I would say. I'll give our kind of personal experience. When we undertake, particularly what is called software engineering, AKA coding work for our clients, we inevitably use GenAI. Now, we all have kind of different experiences in terms of what's the productivity and the efficiency of using those GenAI tools. Puneet kind of went there a bit. We see anywhere from 30 to 50%. Has that reduced our workforce by 30 to 50%? Absolutely not. In fact, it's actually increasing our workforce, because what's actually happening is there's a lot many more clients that we're serving. We're not starting. Our clients are growing. They're figuring out new ways of actually kind of introducing new products, new ways of penetrating the marketplace, new ways of actually growing their top line.
But it's only a matter of time. If a lot of the code is written by agents and through AI, over time you need fewer coders. And similarly with nurses, for example, if some of the work is outsourced to these agentic nurses, you'll need fewer physical people. I mean, that's just reality.
So Rahul, let me kind of paint this picture. Okay. Here's the other reality, which we should perhaps appreciate. PC revolution, 80s and 90s. Every job associated with a typist, a clerk, a bookkeeper, vanished, gone. Did that reduce the workforce in the economy? Absolutely not. What happened to them? They became software engineers, network administrators, data scientists, data analysts, etc. New jobs, reimagining jobs, new ways of actually economic productivity. That's exactly what's going to happen with today's world.
But Puneet, it's not that simple, because there are people, say, in the middle of their careers who are used to a certain kind of work, and then suddenly, like middle America got hollowed out. You got a lot of people, because manufacturing moved internationally, who simply then don't have work. And that, in the context of a country like India with what is supposed to be a demographic boom, runs the prospect of turning into a massive demographic disaster.
So I don't think I'll go towards that. First, I would just say our jobs are already changing on us while we're not changing jobs. And I'll give you a quick, so I looked at some LinkedIn data. It said for the same job today, 25% of the skills required for that job have changed in the last couple of years. So the job I was hired for in the last couple of years, 25% of the skills required have already changed, and potentially I'm outdated, I don't know. But in the next few years, it'll be 65%. So our jobs are already changing on us, even if we are not changing jobs, so that's the first thing. Second, you're right, Rahul, I think jobs will change, right? A new set of jobs will be created, and there's fascinating work happening in India. Karya, which is the foundation in Mumbai, I recently met, they're creating data sets for large language models and going to Dharavi and villages and getting women and villagers to work for us and create some fascinating new jobs. So new jobs will get created. Our jobs will shift. I think we all have to realize that our jobs will shift. And again, I always tell my tell my teams, right, you will not lose your job to an AI, but you will lose your job to somebody who can use AI really well. Right, and I think the imperative for India, Rahul, is skilling, right? Which is, and I spoke about 10 million people as Microsoft to be trained on AI in the next few years. Each one of us needs to learn. Like I spend an hour every day learning about this, and I'm way behind. So if you're not learning about this, if you're not adopting this technology, if you're waiting for conventional wisdom to catch up, you will fall behind. So new jobs to be created, jobs will shift, but I think the call of the hour is skilling and learning.
So rebrain or rot, right? So we have a couple of minutes left. I want to spend this on the third dimension, which is edge AI or physical AI, which is basically machines with some kind of artificial intelligence doing the work that workers would have done. For example, in robotic manufacturing. Now there again, it comes back to the question which I think is being underplayed about the impact on jobs. If a lot of vehicle manufacturing can happen. I was listening to Howard Lutnick, the US Commerce Secretary, speak, and he'll be here in a short while from now, talk about how you can come back and invest in India, in America, where labor costs are higher, because you now have robots that can do the work which expensive American labor can't. So that's the ideas, which essentially comes back to how many people you need to work on the shop floor.
Who's manufacturing the robots? Who's actually kind of building the IT systems for the robots? Who's integrating those robots into the actual warehouse? And who is monitoring those robots for the quality of work and the accuracy of work? New jobs, new economic basically streams, and new ways of actually kind of being productive. Yes, the job in the actual warehouse where the robot is applied may actually may diminish or disappear, sure. And a warehouse that may have had 100 basically kind of humans in there may only have 10. But the other 90 are not basically sitting at home idle. They're going into different fields. What will kill jobs is complacency. If we actually adapt and we focus on what is required to manufacture those robots, make them essentially accurate, test them, integrate them, and assure the quality and govern it, that's where the jobs are.
So we're out of time, but I have to ask you this question about general intelligence, machines developing a mind of their own and potentially going out of control. And now that's the doomsday scenario, right? And I want Nitin, you to come in first on this. Why I'm not asking him the tough questions is because he has to go back to work on Monday, right? We don't want to land him in any trouble. Nitin's the consultant at Deloitte. He can say what he can wax and everything. So, talk about this fear that people have of machines going out of control and the risks that poses. How real is that fear?
A lot of that fear gets fed by Hollywood and Bollywood movies. As a student of history, I would say that as humanity, we have probably kind of created more doomsday scenarios and doomsday events than we could even sort of contemplate. Yes, there's always that possibility. But I would kind of place my faith in humanity, which is we always find a way to manage, govern, control, improve our lives, and we will adapt and make sure that things don't go out of whack.
Given the rapid pace of change, are you concerned that these machines become so intelligent by talking to each other, by making each other more intelligent, by routing data off each other's servers, that you don't really know what's going on? Maybe they're not in some time in Satya or your control.
I don't think, I think this lump of labor fallacy that we spoke about, this man versus machine fallacy we're speaking about, these machines are supposed to amplify human ambition. They're supposed to empower us. Everything that we've spoken about, Rahul, is all about getting energy back, getting joy back, getting time back to do more work. I think that's what I'm excited about. I don't worry about that personally.
This conversation about AI is so deeply ingrained in all of what we do. I can go on for hours and it would still be as fascinating. But we've got a very packed schedule. And I deeply thank Nitin and Puneet for joining us here. They're still here for a while. So if you have any questions, Nitin charges a lot for consultancy, but he's here. So if you have anything about AI that you're worried about, you can go catch him during the course of this evening. And that's the magic of the conclave. Thank you very much for joining us here.
Thank you,
Absolute
Rahul.
pleasure. Thank you.